Hi there, this is Janet Gershen-Siegel, and this is Module 12, which is the final project for ICM 524 Social Media Analytics. Today I'm going to be talking about the question, should journalism be data-driven? And I'm going to start with a couple of quotes that come from the area of popular music. Boy George says, popularity breeds contempt. But Alice Cooper also says, we like reactions. A reaction being walking out on us or throwing tomatoes at the stage. That's a healthy psychological reaction. So just as performers are looking for a reaction and maybe are a little, maybe they're a little ambivalent about popularity, the same seems to be true for journalism. There are a ton of news choices out there. This only scratches the surface. There are tons and tons of them. Some of them are more specialized than others, focusing on things like entertainment or sports or financials. And then some get even more granular and they're even more specialized. The Jewish Daily Forward, the Farm Report, Restaurant News, or even Stars and Stripes, which serves the military community. But the truth is, they're a lot like tomatoes. Yeah, I said tomatoes, and here's why. Even though there are a lot of them, and they can sometimes differ, and sometimes relatively dramatically, they're all recognizably news organizations, and that's in the same way that everything in this image can be recognized to be a tomato. There is a ton of data out there, and the quality varies, sometimes dramatically. And everybody wants to slice it in different ways. How, and more importantly, why, would someone pick a similar news outlet over another one? That's the holy grail question for news outlets. Sometimes it's related to purpose. After all, if you're going to be looking at the Jewish Daily Forward, you're probably not looking for the news in Liberia unless it directly affects either the Jewish people or Israel. But sometimes it can be related to popularity. And the truth is, obscurity doesn't sell advertising space. Popularity does. Journalistic outlets, despite their altruistic origins, are for-profit businesses. There's a ton of variety out there, so how are stories chosen? Jeff Sonderman says, quote, can editors go too far in pushing content based on financial impact instead of journalistic values? Perhaps, but many news organizations today face strong reminders that they have to succeed as a business to succeed at all, end quote. Bottom line, quite literally, financial impact influences journalistic choices. You're not going to write about things that are so unbelievably obscure that nobody can relate to them, because then that's a waste of time. Even when you're completely free, an underground paper or organization, as it were, there's still an expense. There's always something. You have to chase the buck at least a little bit. Even if you don't want to be beholden to advertisers, even if you're trying not to be, there's still some costs in terms of journalism, whether it's time or it's money or attention or anything else. News outlets are not charities. They have to show a profit, just like any other business. But let's take a corollary to this. Not only do we want to show a profit, but we also want to connect with audiences. Isn't that important? Last semester, I took ICM 522, which was social media platforms. And one of the big things that we were taught was that you need to work with your buyer persona. You need to serve them. So news organizations, knowing who is interested in reading and listening to them and watching them, they do need to feed into what the audience is interested in. So Mary Claire Fisher says, and I quote, the ability to see and count what readers do on a website provides a relatively new source of audience intelligence in the news industry, which historically has relied on self-reporting through surveys to gauge what people actually read. The data is crucial for a site's ability to sell advertising because advertisers demand detailed reports on who their messages are reaching. While some journalists fear excessive attention to analytics will corrupt the quality of journalism, others believe smarter metrics can help news outlets connect with audiences in meaningful ways, end quote. Because shouldn't even the news outlets be giving the people what they want? However, Let's go to Corey Blair in Confessions of a Clickbait Victim, where he says, and I quote, "The Church of Journalism is beginning to worship a god of the technological revolution, the click. With advertising revenues relating directly to page views, it has never been more important to write headlines that pop off the page," end quote. The unspoken part of this is a question. Shouldn't journalists be reporting newsworthy and compelling events? Shouldn't they be championing the underdog, the downtrodden, and the forgotten? What happened to journalistic ethics? Or is it just going to be cat stories and the Kardashians 24/7? Even what's good for you can be compelling. It can even be beautiful. Actually, in this past week or so, we saw a synergy. We saw the perfect storm of the most popular news story with what was probably the most important story to be told, and that was Gaza. But that doesn't always happen, because the downside to it is it can all go wrong if journalists don't balance profitability with newsworthiness and journalistic ethics. Then it gets just plain rotten. I've got a bunch of sources. I won't read them all to you, but the gist of it is that all the news channel logos were obtained directly from their respective websites, and all of the other images either come from Wikimedia Commons or from Flickr, and most of them are under Creative Commons, and I have the citations here if anybody wants to see them. And I thank you for watching and listening, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody else has got. This has been a great semester. Thanks, everybody.